Hello everyone, this is Vicky from NIPER. In this video, I will discuss the important topics to study from Pharmacognosy for GPAT 2025. Only 24 days left for the exam. It's time to upgrade your preparation for exam. So now let's start. So initially, study all the classification of alkaloids with examples and their precursors. So very important. Maximum one question will we can expect one question from this classification of alkaloids. The next is types of stomata with examples. Very important. Every year one question will come from this table. All the types of stomata with examples, and focus on the classification of glycosides with this C glycosides, O glycosides, S glycosides, N glycosides, and the different types of glycosides like anthraquinone glycosides, cardiac glycosides, etc. With their examples also. Focus on the examples, very important. So, and study all the important chemical tests, very important. I'll discuss all the important main chemical tests in this video, and study the classification of volatile oils like monoterpenes, sesquiterpenes, and their formula with examples also, and study all the main important carbohydrate drugs like acacia, agar, guar gum, tragacanth, and some important points about these drugs, and study tannins and resins and the specific test and the specific drugs also, and study all the basics about the plant hormones. Don't go in depth, but study all the basic points of plant hormones, and study the traditional systems of medicine like Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, some basic points about those, and study all the metabolic pathways. Like we have the cyclic acid pathway, mevalonate pathway. So study the main important reactions in the starting material and the main enzymes involved in, and the end products also. Study all the metabolic pathways, and study surface on this plant hormones. So different hormones and their other names, different types of hormones, the synonyms, examples, what they will do, etc. So study all these topics from pharmacognosy. I suggest you to do past year papers for pharmacognosy. So now we'll discuss some important chemical tests in pharmacognosy. So generally for alkaloids, we have Mayer's reagent, and study the reagent also. The Mayer's test, which contains a reagent of potassium mercuric iodide, and Dragonov reagent for with the potassium bismuth iodide reagent, Hagel's reagent, that is picric acid, Wagner's reagent, that is potassium iodide, Van Hoek's reagent. This Van Hoek's reagent is mainly used for ergot alkaloids. So these four are generally used for any alkaloids, but Van Hoek's reagent is specifically for the ergot alkaloids or indole alkaloids. Generally, ergot alkaloids contain indole ring. And the muroxide test, the reagent of this test also important, which is usually identified to identify for purine alkaloids. And the thaliquin test, very important, that is about the quinine alkaloids, which gives you emerald green color. This is important. And the mineral acid test for colchicine, the Vitali-Morin test for tropin alkaloids, very important. And study the what is Vitali-Morin test, and generally this Marcus test for morphine and meconic acid test for opium, because generally opium contains the meconic acid, so meconic acid test is used for opium. And the Braun-Tragus test for anthraquinone glycosides, and the modified Braun-Tragus test for anthraquinone glycosides. And the difference between Braun-Tragus and modified Braun-Tragus is very important. The difference is your FeCl3, that is ferric chlorate, and this modified Braun-Tragus is used for LOI. And the next is your cuproloin test, also known as Klung test, which is used to identify isobarbaloin of LOI. This cuproloin contains copper sulfate plus NaCl as a reagent. The next is Kelley-Kelani test, the presence of desoxyribonucleic sugar in cardiac glycosides. Generally, the Kelley-Kelani test, Legal's test, Ball test, these tests are used for cardiac glycosides. But specifically for the presence of desoxyribonucleic sugar, we will use Kelley-Kelani test, KK test. The next is foam test and hemolytic test. These two tests are used for saponins. And the very famous Shinoda test is used for flavonoid glycosides, which contains some magnesium strips. The next, the Salkovy test and Lieberman-Booker test, these two tests are used for lipids. The gold beaded skin test is used for tannins. So these are the different types of important tests from pharmacognosy. Very important. Remember all the tests and focus on these important tables, important topics to study in pharmacognosy. So all the best. Thank you. Subscribe to this channel and share with your friends.